pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sandy Calvert.
Here.
Beth Wood.
Here.
Kevin Ryan.
Here.
Alfio Seiza.
Here.
And Corbin will not be present.
Okay. Next thing is approval of the November 19th minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at those? Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Chad's made the motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, and the first matter we have is a rediscussion on the DeBrew variance setbacks. It's case number 2025-11. Do you want to go ahead and tell us what's going on with that?
Yeah, so with the DeBrew variance, they had put in their application, they had requested 40 to 60 feet from the road for their setbacks, and in the motion the board made, they actually only approved for 60, and that petitioner has discovered that they did need the 40. So the board just kind of left out that in their motion, so we wanted to bring it back and let the board discuss that.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and open the public portion. Does anybody have any comments on this particular matter? Okay, then I'll go ahead and close that. Do we have any comments from any of us? Okay.
It's just an oversight on our part.
So do they just need up to the 40?
Yes,
Okay.
topography pushes them to need, the way the land is made, placed, requires the 40. So from you guys, denial or motion to amend the approval.
I'll make a motion to amend the approval to the setback of 40 feet.
Okay, do I have a second?
Could we just modify it to the original intent, which was 40 to 60 feet? That way we stick with the original.
Well, we're just
Same.
amending, yeah, we're
Okay.
just amending.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I believe I abstained from the original vote.
You did.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Okay, the next item is the Blue Triton Brands, case number 2025-12, conditional use application. I will go ahead and open the public comment portion of the meeting. Any comments need to be directed to the board, not to the individuals from the companies. Responses from the company need to be directed to the board, not to the audience. Okay, so,
Should we start with companies?
yeah, you guys go ahead and
First.
come up and tell.
Was that, do you want us to go up?
Yes.
The live stream doesn't seem to be working.
It's not, I'll have to upload, something's going on with the IP issue. So we'll still get it up, but it'll just be after the meeting ends.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I just need that person's information for the record also.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
And I know there's probably some additional information that you guys need to provide for people that live in the area. And
Turn the microphone on, please.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
do you guys have any additional information that you want to provide to people that live in the area?
So we've submitted quite a bit of information to BZA. we listened to the BZA, the county commissioners regarding, big questions like property tax. Immediately after the last meeting, we addressed that with county assessor, who let us know they've reassessed the property at the highest commercial use, which is the current use of the property. We're using it for commercial purposes. We've answered many questions, and we're here to continue answering questions that the board has.
I would only add, Richard Lorenz, for the record, I'm an attorney here in Spencer, Indiana, representing the applicant here. The application is for a conditional use, and it's because of the fact that there would be a change of ownership in this particular case. In 2017, this board, members here and other predecessors, had the opportunity to hear the application at that time, and they approved the conditional use at that time for hydrology. And that was for essentially the extraction and distribution of water from the wells on that property and all. There were a lot of comments. I listened to the comments from the board and from the audience and all from the last occasion, and I've had occasion to look at the transcript of the 2017 proceedings as well. I think many of the concerns are something I would call in Owen County the fear of change and all, that something is going to happen that is going to do harm or injury to someone or something. I don't think those things are present in this case. Some of the concerns about the amount of water being removed are totally limited by the voluntary agreement by the entity to keep the extraction at 50,000 per gallons per day and all. Even the threshold for the state DNR is 100,000, so you're half of that quantity. We've also been operating for a prolonged period of time without it having any effect upon the neighboring communities. And the state in total has over 4,200 that it does regulate, let alone ones like this that it doesn't even take into account. So it would appear that the geological concerns that have been voiced in general here are not sustained by the mechanical parts of this equation. You have the DNR with its own division that handles these kind of extractions and all, and it would have said something about the matter if they were concerned. Reports have voluntarily been sent to DNR to keep them abreast of what's happening and all. This particular application is because there is an opportunity here for this particular enterprise to sell its business. It has a very time-sensitive situation that this, unfortunately, is part of a budget and application process that has to be finished by the end of the year, simply because the buyer is in that particular mode. I can't overstate or understate that situation, but it does happen. Big companies have to have their budgets and have to work within the criteria that they have for getting their projects done, otherwise they fall apart. There's been some discussion too about whether or not this should be a rezone or conditional use. And the fact of the matter is, the application for conditional use actually gives the BZA more authority than it really would have over the rezone. The rezone would open it to any commercial enterprise thereafter without having even come to the board except for the site plan and all. So you really have a willingness on the part of the applicant to limit its operations. It did have a conversation with the Owen County Highway Department to get some suggestions about the turnarounds that are there and to improve them. And the Owen County Highway Department voluntarily would say that, yes, we will provide those services and actually perform the improvements we think would be beneficial as suggested and all. There was one other comment that was made about concern about the original 2017 hearing. I would encourage you to say, I'm sorry, that's moot. That's not before this board at the present time. Whatever those concerns were, I would suggest to you that they're substantively incorrect and legally incorrect. But the fact of the matter is, the board has previously authorized this particular use, and it continues in use today and will tomorrow. That's not going to change. So those particular arguments are out of bounds for this particular matter. One of the other things that we did talk about in this situation was the idea of having to have something to give back to the community, I would like to encourage the board to think very pragmatically about what's happening here. You have a very significant buyer here who would be coming into our community, much like Boston Scientific and Cook Urological, that will automatically, by its own initiatives, contribute to the community. The current owners have already set up accounts with the Community Foundation in order for them to contribute to the community, and they intend to stay with those matters at all. It's also very dicey to think in terms of what do I have to give back to the community in order to get a zoning variance of any nature. It sounds like a quid pro quo that you've got to be very careful about in terms of how it appears to be. It's not a matter where you go in and you buy a zoning application, okay? You have to have a standard of conduct, and the code that you're looking at, your BZA authority for the variances and all, it provides findings and conclusions of law. And those findings, if you make those findings, that's the guideline, the roadmap by which the applicant can follow and say, I've done all these things, and if I've done these things, you should approve my application. It's not a matter where we come in and have an overall opinion that somehow this is not a good thing. We don't like water of this nature, or we don't like this particular jewelry store, or that number of gas stations. That's not what we're doing in this particular proceeding or in actually any BZA matter. What you're trying to do is determine whether the applicant has met the criteria for the application, and if so, the theory would be that you would be granted that. So the zoning ordinances are not necessarily restrictive, they are the roadmap to how you can get something at all. We also think that this is going to be particularly helpful to the community at large. What happens here is this distribution goes to a major enterprise which provides literally millions of gallons of water from many resources at all for redistribution. Every single convenience store in this town, in this county, carries this water. It's coming back to the community and you're drinking it. So I would encourage you to think very pragmatically about this and think in terms of what is good for this community, okay? We understand why people would be fearful that something would happen to their wells or whatever. But remember, the well on that individual property is privately owned and is able to be used. It is not a community public resource. And there are arguments that the state of Indiana has said, we, state of Indiana, will control how much is taken from the ground and under what circumstances, that the aquifers are in the jurisdiction of the state and not of the county. So I offer those things, and I would turn it back to Warren to see if I've missed anything.
I think you've covered it all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'm Arlene Vincent with Blue Triton, and, I do want to thank you guys. I know you guys have spent a lot of time and energy, the board, the commissioners, Heather. I know this has been, incorporated a lot of your time over the last few months. So I do just really want to applaud you for the amount of effort and due diligence that you guys have put forth. We did also, I know there's, people don't know us, and so I did submit, hopefully you guys have had a chance to review those, some letters and testimonials from different communities that we operate. One of the discussions and questions were around, what are the benefits to the community? So any of the people that I did submit letters to offered for you to reach out and have conversations with them. There were examples of emergency response or emergency disasters in Indiana and in Kentucky that we just recently had, sent water to, partnering with a local partner. Community leaders, non-governmental organizations, conservation districts, and also professors, because we've had conversations about supporting education, because that's ultimately part of the the fear of water. It's hard to understand. So hopefully that gave us some insights and really did open doors that you guys were able to have some conversations where places that we have operated in different ways that we do support communities and have a long track record of doing that. or, you know, and I know there were specific questions, and I think through things that Warren or myself or others have submitted, if there's any additional questions, or we, you know, as you guys have went through a lot of information, we'd be happy to answer them. I also do want to call out for the Indiana Geological Survey to also that they came out and spent some time looking things over as well, so we're thankful for their time as well.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and open for public comment.
So once we do that, could we have us swap you guys out for any public ones to come up and speak? To try to keep some order one at a time and add a microphone.
This video's not working now.
I have a question. So Blue Triton, is this bottle,
Maureen, you want to go ahead and come up here to the
I
table?
have to come up here?
We need to get you on the microphone since video's not working properly.
So is this bottled?
State your name, please.
Oh, Maureen Kipp. Is this bottled water that you're going to be getting our water and then selling individual bottled water?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else have comments they want to come up and make?
Yeah, I'm Tom Parrish, and I live just right out next to this. As Mr. Lorenz indicated, you know, there's a lot of things that Blue Triton's doing, and, you know, all I'm hearing is they're taking resources from Owen County. They're extracting the water, sending it to Greenwood. He said that the county highway department went out and looked at the road, and once again, the county will be paying for an improvement for their private company so that they can extract water to sell the resources of Owen County to profit a $6 billion foreign company. It's not even a company that's owned by the United States corporations anywhere. So basically at this point, you know, as I stand, I'm still opposed to this. I don't like large corporations coming into Owen County and taking the finite resources from our tax base. So basically, that's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Wait, come on up.
My name is Aaliyah, and
Yeah, speak up.
I have a couple of comments and a question
What's your name?
and a request.
What is your name, ma'am?
Aaliyah Keuthan, Keuthan.
Can you sit down so we can hear you from the microphone?
I'm sorry, my name is Aaliyah Keuthan, and I live on northwest of Spencer in the county. Okay, first of all, I wanted to comment that aquifers are shared resources, and that might be why the state made the comments that they did. In every other state that I've lived in or spent time in, South Dakota and Arizona, aquifers have been shared by the public, and the access to fresh water is a human right globally. So this is something that should concern everybody and not be diminished. The second comment is that single-use plastics bottles already litter the landscape throughout Owen County, and promoting more of this type of use isn't necessarily good for the community because microplastics create a problem with health issues, and accidental consumption by wildlife is also an issue. Plus, the plastics get into our groundwater sources, and I've seen them all along Rattlesnake Creek. They've been spotted lining the road all up and down, all the way up Timber Ridge, all the way around the county. I've talked to people who have complained about plastic pollution. So this is another problem that's related to single-use plastics, and bottled water is one of the greatest sources of single-use plastics, in addition to laundry detergents. Those two things are probably the two biggest culprits, beverages and laundry cleaning solutions. A question I have is, are there any clauses in the current contract with this particular company requiring inspections, either planned or unannounced, of the contents of tankers going in and out of the permit site? Also, inspections concerning the viability of the aquifers, and have there been adequate questions or efforts to get public response as to their wells and the viability of their wells that are affected by that particular aquifer, and what are those efforts that have been made? My request is to see a copy of the permit application. And I'd also like to know if the company is interested in, or has already made contacts with any third parties regarding future permits and what those might be, as a matter of interest as a taxpayer. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Jacob Balish. I live on Braysville Road, and I would be against pumping any more of the water out. I just think this is a finite resource and this is just exiting our county, and there's only so much of it. So then we have wear and tear on our roads, which is not wonderful, and then the depletion of water. And so we have a well, and if for some reason ours goes dry, what are we supposed to do? We live in the woods. And so yeah, I would rather this not happen at all, and I'd love for it just to be stopped. But that's my input.
Hello, my name is Shay Finnegan. I'm a resident of Owen County in that general vicinity out by Freedom. I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to, public to have a comment or a part of this proceeding. I just have questions, I guess, and I don't feel like we're getting 100% transparency. There was a lot of words. There were a lot of words spoken up here, but some of it didn't really make sense to me. So, you know, as far as how is this benefiting our community, I'm still not clear in what way this is benefiting our community. What I do know is, yes, there are tanker trucks on Pottersville Road, which does, just by the sheer weight and frequency of use, destroy the road over time. And that is a county concern because that's who will be responsible for repairing the road. The other thing that was said was that they're taking out around 50,000 gallons a day, and that's not really that much, but really it is because I think it's a lot. The average household uses about 300 gallons a day, conservative estimate, and in that way, that would be 166 households per day that they're taking that much water out of our aquifer. It is a finite resource, I believe. Every year we hear about how there's not enough rain, and you know it's too dry and things like that. It's only going to get drier the more we take water out of our aquifer. I have significant concerns. And yes, we may be drinking the same water that comes out of it at the local store. I don't want to have to pay for water. I have water. There's a well at my house. Water comes out of the faucet. That's the kind of water I want. I don't want purified water coming out of a plastic bottle that I then have to dispose of responsibly. So those are my concerns, and I guess my last comment would be, or my last question would be, who's monitoring how much they're taking out on a daily basis? Who does that? How often do they do it? And what happens if the company, which is a foreign company, I didn't know that, but that was what was stated, a $60 billion foreign company, what happens if they do not comply with the agreement? Or if the new company that they're trying to sell it to, what happens if that company doesn't comply with the agreement? Do they get sanctioned? Are they paying an exorbitant taxes that will help us drill new wells when our aquifer is dry? These are some questions I really hope that the board considers before we allow this to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I don't mean to cut any of you off, but, I mean, they submit monthly reports. That was one of the conditions on how much water that they're extracting. I had one other thing. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking into the microphone, I apologize. They were required to submit monthly reports on the amount of water that they were extracting as part of their original conditional use permit. That could certainly be a condition if it were to be approved today. There's something else I wanted to say with that. Shoot. Oh, as far as if they violate the conditions in the permit, they approve, they put certain conditions on it, the code permits you to revoke the permit. So if they're openly violating the conditions set by the BZA can revoke that. I won't speak for them, but so far they haven't violated those conditions. They were required to submit monthly reports. They did that. They don't have a basis to revoke it at this point, absent some other evidence that I haven't seen. So that answers two of the questions you raised, and that I just know off the top of my head.
So, I mean, I'm not sure who in Owen County is in charge of reading those reports, but does anyone ever go and verify? I mean, like, I have a 12-year-old son, or no, lie, 14-year-old son, and he says, yes, I cleaned my room. He told me this just today. Yes, I picked up all my clothes, and yet I still went in to verify, and surely enough, he did not pick up all of his clothes. So I guess my question is, yes, they send us reports, and they tell us, here's what we're doing, but is there any checks and balances in place at this time, or will there be, to verify what they're telling us is true?
I won't answer to that, but staff or,
So the reports that I get do come from hydrogeology. So as far as response about checks and balances, they do have records of every load that comes out of there, so it would be trackable if that's something that the board wanted to impose.
And who is it trackable from?
Well, directly from their records. From the tankers.
companies?
From the tankers that are pulling the water. They have a system in there.
From the company's records? Yes, okay, that doesn't count. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead and state your name.
My name is John Tucker. I was here at the 2017 meeting. Everything that was said has been violated. Everything that was said is wrong. Do you guys have it wrote down where he said how much water he was going to take? Because then it was, I believe, 6,000 to 12,000 gallons a month, somewhere in that area, month. That has been violated big time, and they just want to keep continuing to violate. Maybe the board wouldn't have approved it. Maybe us neighbors would have complained strongly, more strongly, against it had we known what was actually coming. What we were told and what has become is absolutely two different things. I feel lied to, period. I feel like what was said meant nothing. And I'm in another meeting. You know, I'm not a lawyer. I don't do legal speak very well. There's right, there's wrong, there's legal, and they're not always the same, as we all know. And I feel betrayed, lied to from everything from the 2017 meeting. And I'm going into another meeting, and people are complaining about this and that and a survey and how much water's coming out and who's going to police it and how it's going to tear up the roads and this and that and the other. And they're all right. They are. But I was here at the first meeting. I was here when the variance was done the first time. And this is, I'm amazed. Just amazed. I thought I missed a meeting. I thought that there was another, variance, or the variance was varied, or however that works. That was not the case. And I'm in here going, how much of this is going to stick? How much of this is what it said it's going to be? But anyway, that, and by the way, not a super big deal, but every time the trucks take off, turn, stop, they splash water out everywhere by every stop sign, which is not a big deal till it freezes. It hasn't snowed for a while, nobody put any salt down. Some kid pulls up and sets their cell phone down, slams on the brakes. goes at an intersection. But anyway, no big deal.
What about their hours of operation?
Yeah.
You live right next door.
Yeah, I filed a complaint on that. That's, honestly, it's not a great big deal to me, but it's another deal. But yeah, they've been earlier and later than their times, which I believe that'll be brought up later in the meeting by somebody else and verified very well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. I'm sure there's a lot to be added to it. But like I said, I was at the first meeting, and that's the main thing that's getting me. It's like, well, what I'm being told now, is that going to hold true? Is that going to be how it's going to be? Or because in my eyes, when he violated what he said to begin with, that variance should have been pulled. That would have been the right thing to do.
What was violated?
More water than what he said, and where the water was going.
Yeah, it was supposed to be for sinkhole.
It's supposed to be for, geological surveys dumped in with dye down in holes and see where it goes. He needed clean water for that. That was the original variance. That's what the water was for. Nothing was said about selling that water. Nothing was said about putting it in water bottles. None of that stuff was said. And, he put a limit in on, himself on what he was going to use so that we would be quiet and be okay with it. And that has completely changed. I mean, I haven't done the math, but 12,000 gallons versus 50,000 gallons a day, is that not 1,000% or so more than what he said he was going to pull?
I'm looking at the conditional use findings. It was a recorded document, and it does state 50,000 gallons on here.
Okay,
Yeah, it was stated in the original meeting that 50,000, but he said he would probably only need about 12
Is that a month or a day?
a day.
A day.
It was put in at 50,000 gallons a day at that meeting?
It's what the document says.
Wow. I was unaware.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, I never heard that. And the main noisy person that was at that meeting has not been at these meetings. And we know why. And I'll leave.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi there, I'm Jill Hudson. I live here about a mile and a half south of this site. I would just like to say for all my neighbors that oppose this, I completely agree with everything that they've said. I just want that on record. I have a lot of concerns. From the get-go, when I heard that it was Blue Triton, I was told it was a name change. That's what I was told, that this was a name change. It's not. But when I first looked up Blue Triton, I noticed that they were purchased by Primo Brands in November of 2024. It was it wasn't a purchase, excuse me, it was a merger. So I've wondered all along why it wasn't Primo Brands to begin with, a $6 billion company. Our state recognizes that Blue Triton is now Primo Brands. This was from August of 2025. They filed this paperwork in October of this year, right? So the state recognizes Blue Triton as Primo, but their paperwork says Blue Triton. So who are they? I mean, are they Blue Triton is no more. Blue Triton merged with Primo. So shouldn't the paperwork say Primo? I mean, shouldn't it? I don't know. But our state recognizes it. Also, the hours of operations, it's their own self-imposed hour. They said what their hours would be, and they get in there now they're getting in at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is new. They've been getting there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I feel horrible for the people who live right next door to this place trying to sleep peacefully, but their trucks are way over the limits when they're full, even when they're not, but particularly when they're full. They exceed the weight limits. The self-reporting that they do, I have a really big problem with that. I feel like there should be better controls over that. I mean, if you tell me to self-report, I'll tell you how many pieces of candy I ate. You can't trust me. I like candy. So I just feel like there should be bigger controls. I would like to see an ordinance involved over this with great wording and clear cut guidelines and parameters on what's allowed if this goes as it is. I don't think it's, I have read the ordinance, our own county ordinance. I don't see that this qualifies under conditional use. I don't see it in there. Maybe it's just my interpretation, but I don't see it. So I don't even know how this can even move forward. But I also, the zoning, I think I disagree with the zoning. I don't, it's zoned agricultural, but they can't harvest the timber, so it can't be agricultural. So I just, there's so many things that I don't understand. We are on a well, and, the whole thing is, it started as Nestle, and then Nestle sold ultimately to sold to a private investor. And the private investor then made Blue Triton, and then Blue Triton merged with Primo. So these big companies, they move from state to state and town to town, and they keep on, so if there ever is a big issue, if it affects my water table, and I want to go after them, but they keep changing names, it's just a great way to avoid and hide from trouble. The trail of responsibility, where does it end? Because that's what they do. That's what these big companies do. That's how they operate. It's wrong on so many levels. I'm not afraid of change. I am afraid, as a person who lives in Owen County, I am afraid of a $6 billion company coming in here and pushing their way around. And just like everybody else has said, it started small, and that's what was agreed on. I didn't live in Owen County at that time, but now it's a great big giant water operation. It's a huge water operation, and they're knocking on our door, and we better pay attention. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, very quickly. My name is Pam Rogers. I live at 1411 Kelly Farm Place in Spencer. I want to reemphasize my objections and remonstrances that have been filed in the November meeting and in this December meeting, as well as to acknowledge those many other documents that have been filed that have not been entered into minutes and were unable to even get a confirmation from the administrator that these documents are being delivered to the BZA. I believe that this application should be denied without further recommendation based on the scope of convoluted and conflicting data presented by the petitioner. It's been very well documented that a multitude of records presented by this petitioner provided false information, the incorrect well record number and location. They have identified activities and actions that they're conducting that do not align with the current conditional use permit that was issued years ago, but that conditional permit actually expired. It expired 2 years after it was issued, because as a condition of that, when you go in and you read your ordinance, it specifically identifies that the construction plans, the development and an certificate of occupation must be given within that 2-year period of time. If it's not, that petitioner must come back to the BZA and file for an amended conditional use. They did not. And by ordinance and by your own record, the current use of that facility is unlawful at this point because that is expired. Regarding their building permit, one of the requirements is that any commercial facility, any commercial building must be must receive an approval by Homeland Security, and they have to go in and approve those blueprints and design plans. Homeland Security has no record of this, and they've searched under the applicant, the owner's name. The county has been unable to provide a copy of the original building permit application, which was only a couple years ago. Now, the petitioner provided in their blue folder evidence of a certificate of occupancy, and for one of these structures, it was for a manufactured facility. None of those facilities are a manufactured facility. So the fact that the very minimum requirement is that the construction of this well pump facility and the building must receive an approval by Homeland Security to first approve those design plans. This petitioner did not provide that information, did not provide that documentation. That puts them in violation. This application absolutely does not qualify for a conditional use. And very specific reference to the facts and findings are included in my filed records, including the exact specific language of our ordinance and our rules that identifies that for this conditional use, it is a conditional use of agricultural property. There is a one-page list of what those conditional uses may be. And at one time, it was possibly considered that maybe the BZA considered that the pumping of water fell under that conditional use. When you read the language of that, this is not a public water, and that was reiterated by council today that this is a private water supply. So there's no exclusion or exception that falls under this being a public water supply. And as to it being a public pumping facility, that does not extend to this type of application. So on that grounds alone, this may not be heard, or rather it can be heard, but it may not be approved as a conditional use permit. The IGWS report that I received only at 2 o'clock today, if you go to page 4, listed as number 1, 2, and 3, are 3 specific questions that thankfully the BZA kindly did ask to be included in this review. This evaluation states that they cannot make those conclusions. They cannot assure the public that this operation, the use of the water, is not adversely affecting the community. And they go on to say that if it is a significant withdrawal facility, that then a much more extensive environmental study would have to be done. But it is the requirement of this petitioner to be able to demonstrate no harm is being done, and those specific questions which impacted local wells and assessment to connecting to other aquifers and aquifer level impacts beyond the property boundaries. IGWS could not make that conclusion. They cannot make it, and the petitioner has not proven that fact. Now, respectfully, I have to disagree professionally with the comment made by Attorney Lorenz regarding control of aquifers by the state. The state does control regulation of aquifers regarding registration, and in severe drought and certain conditions, they can regulate water extraction volumes. But by Indiana law, home rule places this power to the local government, the Board of Commissioners. They are ultimately over our land use rules of our county. Counties are given the power to self-regulate and to impose these conditions. If that's not true, the BZA could not sit here tonight and potentially propose conditions that would be required. That's a part of the home rule law. So matters came up regarding whether this should be a rezoning. Should this be a different application? That's not for the BZA to determine. Tonight, the BZA can either deny, grant it with conditions, But to propose that they then would apply for a rezone, that's beyond the scope of what you actually have the capacity to do. And this, as I have indicated in my reports, this is something that there are very unusual conditions regarding this applicant, and the truthfulness and accuracy of the materials that's been presented both to the BZA and the county. The very simple thing of the well record. So when you look at the geological report, you're going to find statistical information about the well that was dug, tested, the depth, and the date. That does not agree with the form that was filed by hydrogeology or Blue Triton. And so it was stated that, oh yes, that permit that they provided in the blue binder, it has a completely different location in this county. It's not even for that property. So was the driller, did he err in putting the wrong address? There's no address listed. So there's specific information, but then it doesn't even correlate with what IGWS provided in their report. So there are other wells that were drilled, these test wells. There's no record of these even within the state. The wells are drilled, they're supposed to be registered. County has an ordinance. We have a county ordinance that says not only does a well driller have to register within the state, but they have to come into the county. That well has to be registered within the county. Now, is the county applying that? Are they not applying that? That's not for this petitioner to try and sort out, or for the BZA. It is an ordinance that it was just codified and reaffirmed 1 year ago, that this is an active ordinance in our county. So that ordinance that says a person who drills a well in this county has to go register that well in the county, that's for the protection of the neighbors. So to do due diligence and to protect the communities, that's an ordinance that's on the books. And that is something that issues a penalty. I believe it's $500. These are recoverable assets. Regarding the use of the roads, very, very specifically, and I'd like you to please make sure you read what I wrote in my objection. The conditions that were originally issued to the Hydrogeology, Inc., which was changed to LLC, list specific requirements and conditions that they have to meet. One is if the property is sold, they have to reapply. Well, a memorandum of understanding was filed in 2022 on this property. And that memorandum of understanding lists Blue Triton as the purchaser and Hydrogeology LLC as the supplier. And apparently Blue Triton paid for $300,000 valuation, according to this document, to build the pumping station. Now, at a very minimum, those records were required by this petitioner at that time to be delivered to the assessor. So you are already aware of the matters of incorrect assessments, and then we have a statement that, hey, they went to the assessor, and now the assessor is going to assess this at the maximum amount for a commercial property. Again, that information is not coming through correctly regarding these matters. That particular agreement that was put in place in 2022 identified no farming operation could occur on that property. No livestock, no harvesting of trees, no planting, no use of pesticides, no septic system. The list of what it cannot do is so great that it immediately disqualifies that parcel to be considered agricultural property. It was a legal duty of the petitioner or the person who made that agreement to give that information to the assessor at that time, because that would have triggered an automatic reassessment for that entire 46 acres plus the other portion to be taken out of preview of an agricultural use property. Because by that legal record, and it's recorded in the recorder's office, agricultural use of that property cannot be used on that piece of property. So I have many documents in front of you, and I know that you're frustrated with many of the things that are sent, and I know that we have other people who have sent objections and remonstrations, and I'm only trying to touch on those really important facts that tonight, this must be denied. It's beyond the scope of this BZA to proceed with this because, A, it's not eligible to be filed as a conditional use. The second thing is, I'm requesting a cease and desist order be considered and to be put before council to be issued on the current operations, because as demonstrated in the documents I've provided you with very specific finding of facts, the current use of this property is in a zoning violation. They have been in a zoning violation for a multitude of years. They failed to come back to the BZA and apply for a amendment years ago when it was required. And the concern of the facility not having any record as to undergoing approval by Homeland Security of being approved as a commercial building, then this is something that their counsel is here tonight, or their representatives, that document should be readily in their hands that says, here is our proof that we went to the state and we received this approval by Homeland Security. Now, if they have that, excellent. It's just something that has dropped through the many problems of this whole petition. If they don't have it, immediately this facility is in violation of state, local code and ordinances. So please review my filed objections and petitions. And the only last thing I will say in all of this is that we have bigger problems before us instead of this one singular conditional use. These are matters that really truly do need to be reflected to county government so they can look at the entire scope. Very specifically, one of those matters is regarding weight limit on the roads. And it's not for the highway department or for Heather to run around and find out what's the weight limit. This petitioner is required to provide the documentation and proof and testimony at a hearing, not for the county to go out and find the answers. It is for this petitioner to prove their position. Our ordinance that you already have a copy of identifies the roads that they're using as a 16,000 pound limit. This is regardless summer, winter, fall. The capacity of their tankers they're hauling over 6,000 gallons per tanker load. This far exceeds the capacity of these roads. The roads are posted by matter of them appearing in the codified ordinances, and the petitioners have been informed of the weight limits on the roads. So please take all of those matters into consideration. Please deny this application tonight. Please do not make a recommendation as to how they should proceed. That's their counsel's to do that. And please consider in your finding of facts that you ask our county council to consider filing a cease and desist under the conditions that I've identified and the fact that they're immediately in violation of code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chuck Parrish, and my well is probably a mile from this well. And my big problem is this organization come in here, the first meeting, and they was telling everybody, oh, it's no big deal. We're just going to flush out some sinkholes and stuff like that. And people was kind of objecting at that time to even taking that much water to go flush out sinkholes. So here we are, a couple years later. It's a company that are selling bottled water in Greenwood and everywhere else. And now They are wanting to sell that company to another conglomeration. And my good friend Richard said something about that it was benefiting the county that they're getting their water, we're getting their water here. Yeah, we're paying for it, you know? And if something happens to my well, who do I go talk to? Where do I go and say, hey, you know, them guys down there, they started this business up down there, and they're selling bottled water all over the United States, and my well went dry. And I know I don't use 50,000 gallons a day. So how do I get made whole again? Very interesting question. That's all I got to say about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Rands, and I filed written submission comments to you, but I didn't get anything that said that they were received, so I just wanted to make sure. I will read you what I sent. I also wanted on record that I agree with the comments from Pam Rogers. Let's see, so I request that you guys deny this application based on the following: that the subject property is located in an agricultural zoning district and does not qualify for a conditional use approval. Light manufacturing and distribution is not listed in agricultural zoning land, that would be industrial. The complete required documents per ordinance 15.2 were not provided by the applicant. Neither requirement 4 or number 5 were completely satisfied in the application. Per ordinance 15.8, the original conditional use permit expired after 2 years, which Pam touched on. The ordinance required that certification of occupancy be made before February of 2019. The certificate was not issued until April of 2023. The landowner did not acquire an amendment to the conditional use permit. There is not record that either the wells or the well driller were registered properly with Owen County, as Pam touched on that too. They are in violation of our ordinance regarding the weight limits on our roadways, as Pam was saying, that they're hauling tankers of 6,000 gallons of water that far exceed 16,000 pounds, which is the limit for the roads. Destroying our roads is blatant disregard and disrespect for our community. In my letter, because I did not get a copy of the geological survey report before I sent this, but I said there needed to be an environmental impact study from an unbiased independent groundwater well specialist, so the geological survey, the questions people wanted to know that they cared about are, is it going to affect the wells in the surrounding area? Is it going to affect our water in the future? Based on this survey that Ginger completed, they do not have enough data to tell us that. That with added time, they could tell us if it was long-term sustainable withdrawal rates, impacts to nearby wells, assessment of connection to other aquifers, and aquifer level impacts beyond the property boundaries. But they didn't have enough data to tell us that. So we still cannot demonstrate to the community that this is not going to affect us in the future. So based upon those matters, I request that you deny this application. And I also, as a member of the community, would expect that there should be an immediate cease and desist order for their operations. They should not receive special treatment if anyone else doesn't follow the regulations, or there are going to be exceptions made for that. So I just wanted to make sure you know I filed written comments. Thank you.
Thank you. After him. I'm trying to lose my voice.
My name is Kevin Wright. I just had a question, and I think she kind of answered it. Was there an environmental impact study that was done for this?
We had the water study.
We had a water study. It was a brief study. We have a written statement from them. Does anybody want to elaborate on that or answer his questions?
We can allow the petitioners to respond later, right? They can come back and respond to
Yes.
that.
Okay, they can respond after.
Yeah.
What, I mean, just from what she was saying, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it seemed like from the study that they couldn't really tell us what the impact would be. To me, I feel like there needs to be more studies that need to be done than if we're not exactly sure what the impact would be. They're just kind of saying, well, trust us and maybe in the future we could give you more information. I'd like to have that information before there's a variance granted. I know they're on a timeline, they gotta have their stuff turned in by the end of the year, but Owen County has a timeline too, and I care a lot more about our natural resources than I do about a big company's bottom line. So that's really all I have to say on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for everything you're doing. Appreciate everything. My name is Joy Gray. I am a property owner in Owen County and paid dearly to dig very deep to get my well. So I'm new to this, so I'm learning. But I have a couple of questions, and I'm hoping that you guys can answer them, or Mr. Lawrence can. After doing some research, it appears that there was a merger with Triton, Blue Triton, and Primo Brands. Is that correct?
Again, we can let the petitioner respond to that question.
Okay.
So you can pose it.
When he comes up, okay. Because everything that I've read says that they did. And so Primo Brands is a publicly traded company. Blue Triton is not. But the merger that was done together, I'm not sure it shields everybody. However, Primo Brands is a publicly traded company held by shareholders, right? The number one shareholder is One Rock Capital Partners and Triton Water Parent Holdings. The next one is, hang on one second. The next one is, or one of the next one is Vanguard, the Vanguard Group. They're a large investor in solar and wind developments, data centers. The next one, BlackRock, also solar, wind, battery storage, data centers, grid infrastructure. Next one, these are all stakeholders, shareholders for Primo Brands, who just merged with Blue Titan. FMR LLC, Fidelity, data centers. Clean energy companies, utilities. Viking Global Investors. The shareholders of Primo Brands, the majority of the shareholders, all support renewable energy and data centers. So what goes on in my mind, if you're pulling 50,000 gallons a day, and we've already got wells going dry, what's going to happen in 2030, according to the records I ran across, when they turn it up? So there has to be a way, either you deny this, or if you do support it, there has to be a way to govern it in a better way for us that says I want your plans. I want your plan for the next 10 years. I want you to come in, we're gonna hold you accountable, we're gonna bring in a third party that's gonna oversee everything. Because if you haven't done enough research on a data center, 50,000 gallons a day doesn't even touch the surface of taking care of a data center. Not even touch the surface. So if these big companies that are the shareholders of Primo Brands, who has merged with Blue Titan, if that's what their plans are down the road, God help us all. Because this goes much more than 1 mile away or 5 miles away. 46 acres is enough. If you let this go through, down the road, it could be a catastrophe for us. So it's all public knowledge. It really is if you just dig deep. So you have a decision to make. You listen to, the people who are concerned. I'm all about change, but we need to. But what's the casualties that we take along the way to make that change? It's something that's on your shoulders. We rely on you to protect us. You're our voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have comments?
I'd like to relay a story that I covered in Rapid City, South Dakota, about the county, Pennington County, sending the National Guard, I think it was the state of South Dakota, sending the National Guard to Rapid Creek when Rapid Creek was a little bit higher than usual because of heavy rains, with an industrial size of this square here, about 6 foot tall, reverse osmosis device on a trailer and 1,000-gallon tankers to extract water from Rapid Creek and then sent to Afghanistan for our soldiers as drinking water. Now this is not an emergency situation like it would be if there was a drought here, not the same kind of emergency anyway. But if you privatize water or any kind of resource, once you privatize it, you limit what the public can do with it. You limit what your options are as a county, as a state. And you can't guarantee that the generosity of Hoosiers to help their fellow man in the event of a catastrophe or a series of fires or a long-term drought in the country, like in the Southwest, we couldn't send water if we have an excess to another state. We would not have that option if it's privately owned. And the aquifer is already drained because of commercial use. So that's another option or another scenario I just wanted to present based on what one of the gentlemen who was speaking earlier had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Tom Hudson, and I live 1.5 miles away from the site, and my main concern is the water table and the aquifer. They have stated that the water company, the one that owns it now, Hydrogeology, has stated that their spring water is no way connected to our water because of limestone. Well, how do they know that there's no cracks in the limestone, that it could be connected? The spring could be filling our aquifer on the other side in the limestone, through the limestone. And, we're up on top of the hill. I don't know for sure how deep our well is because the well was already there when we moved in. But I know they're several feet below us where they're drilling from, and we're up on the hill. So what's going to happen if that table does drop? We're going to be without water, and so will all our neighbors up on top of that hill. And then, the city water doesn't go very far out Pottersville Road, and I don't think the county has the money to run water line all the way out there to everybody else that could affect. I just would really like to protect our natural resource in Owen County. We have really good drinking water. It tastes better than bottled water. And I would just like to protect it and keep it for the future. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matt Meadows. I moved here about a year and a half ago, and I didn't come too prepared for this meeting, but I knew what was going on. I know some other stories I'd like to present for this not to happen. Number one, I have not heard one thing about what is a contingency plan if the water anywhere up and down the road would go dry. What's the responsibility for the company? What is the county going to do? I fortunately live down at the lower part of Pottersville Road, about a half mile off the river, so I don't think I'm going to have a problem. But I moved from a county west of Marion that everything is just run rampant. All the farmers that were there that's owned the county 30, 40 years ago when I was young have sold all the place, everything to commercials. Now the crime rates and everything else are up. So I look at more to protect my county. This is my county now. This is my home now. And these are my neighbors and my friends. So I want to make sure that at least people are being held responsible if something would happen. I've heard a lot of stuff here tonight. A lot of people have done their research. I applaud all of you. But a few things I wanted to bring up besides the contingency plan is, what does this benefit Owen County? I see nobody getting money or anything at all, right now I feel from everything I've read up on this, which I've done a lot of reading, is I can go into any county, buy me a couple acres, and I can pull all the natural resources out of it and keep all the money, and the county's not gonna get anything for it. I understand there's red tape and government and everything else, but just for a different company, whether it's American or whether it's foreign, making money off stuff that we have here in this county that's under our feet, I don't see, that ain't right. If we don't stand up, we need to do something. If we don't stand up now. A buddy of mine lives down in Arizona. If you haven't done anything, any research on the watershed down in Arizona, I think it's time to do it. They've had, Saudi Arabia has brought companies in there. They have completely just bought some land and started taking the water out, no regulations, no nothing, to feed their alfalfa plants that can only grow over there of hundreds of acres that they can make money on. There's Arizona. Yes, it's in a desert area, but there is water under the ground. Well, guess what? That water is now gone. That water's gone, and the people are like, who do we talk to? I got a buddy of mine that lives 2 miles from an old man that's been there for 80, 90 years, and now his well's been dry for the last 15. There's nothing he can do about it, nobody he can talk to. As of the roads around here, when we first moved in, Pottersville Road was horrible. I talked to the commissioner several times about, hey, what can we do? I'll go out there with pavement if I had to. I wanted something. I wanted to work with my new county as my home to get this taken care of. Well, they finally ended up paving all the way down to the river, the first river, North River Gate, but not any further. Well, I took a couple more calls and finally got them to come out there and do chip seals for the potholes. If the roads, I mean, if we have these trucks on the roads, up in Indianapolis, you can't drive down the street without having ruts down in the pavements because semis have been going through there, dump trucks and everything else. I understand this happens all over the country, or different drilling and stuff like that, but one thing I heard the lawyer here say that this one's not regulated. Why isn't it regulated? Why didn't our county say this needs to be regulated by the state so we can kind of watch it? Yeah, there's been reports come through and requested, and supposedly the company are the ones that provide the information. Where is the third party? Because I know our county representatives, all you guys don't know what's some of these reports. There's no way possible unless you've studied in that field. There needs to be a third party to look this information over to verify that it's properly correct. Maybe the information it did, but that, once again, that's a responsibility of the company or whoever's making the high dollar profit off this. I'm sorry, my phone just timed out. And with data centers, I work in communication, I work in fiber optics, I work in IT. AI right now is scared to death out of me. I know exactly what the data centers are doing, and we better have in the contingency plan that if this company does, with the stakeholders or whatever, start selling the water off for data centers, we're hosed. Pardon the pun. Because we will not have water. These data centers take thousands of gallons to keep the servers cool, and they have to be ran. And it's not just water where you just say, okay, we'll recirculate the water. Most of the water goes right up into the steam. It gets so hot in those things. I think that's about all I got to say. Once again, I say we don't put our foot down now and oppose this. Maybe it's not the end of this, but maybe let's step back and restructure this thing and make sure that everything's done proper. That's what I think we need to do for our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Cindy Curvin. I was at the last meeting, and I'm still find it interesting that this actually is even happening in this community. Kind of snuck in like a thief in the night, I would call it, because without a local newspaper and with only people who live adjacent to properties having to be notified, I don't think that many of us even know, and still many in the community don't even know what's happening. And so, you know, even though I'm not a direct neighbor to this, it will affect us all at some point. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but longevity, it absolutely will. You know, and I'm probably going to have some mixed thoughts here because there's a lot going through my head. But, you know, if you see the news lately, Decatur is having dire issues with their water. The water bill is going to double because they're having to buy it from another community. Town water comes from White River. We have no guarantee that at some point we won't be like California and have to ration our water. I mean, there's no guarantees, and no one, obviously, on the other side has made any projection that there will not be an issue because obviously no one knows. What we do know is that they're allowed to take up to 50,000 gallons a day over the course of infinity, and that could in itself be a problem. When I look at and listened, thanks to a lot of the community members here who have done some really great research, then, you know, one of the things that was said was, I think Margaret had asked about, were they going to bottle it? And I will say yes, and they already are. If you go to Walmart and purchase Ice Mountain water at 16.9 ounces, two of the resources are actually from Spencer. One is the one we're talking about now. The other one is another mystery for another day, I'm sure. So that was one thing too. I think the environmental study, if I'm not mistaken, really wasn't about the environmental impact. It was more to see that if the water were safe for extraction and safe for distribution or moving it, I guess I would say. So I think moving on, the other thing were told at the beginning was if the permit were to be violated, that it could be revoked. Well, I think we've already heard testimony about exceeding the truck limit for the ordinance. We've heard the hours of operation have exceeded their approved hours, and obviously, potentially, wells not being registered. Right there are 3 easy things that I picked up on with my little pen. So I think we've done due diligence to prove violations. And the current use permit, even if it were valid, which there's questionable allegations of that, is that I already have noted they're running commercial. The last I heard at the last meeting, it was light manufacturing. Light manufacturing and commercial do not add up. So potentially another violation or explanation, maybe. You know, people, Mr. Lorenz, I think, had alluded to the money that these people might bring to the community, because obviously there's nothing clear. That was actually asked at the first meeting, and the people sat silent. So for me today to believe that there's any benefit to this community is a hard no, right? Just because there's an account set up at the foundation, I can put $1 in an account tomorrow and set it up and never add any more money and make the council be my beneficiary, right? That's just playing games right there, in my opinion. So money's not the answer, I think is what I'm trying to say. There is no amount of money that's going to take and replace the resources that we're about to lose if we don't take immediate action. What was the other? Oh. And regardless of what might be said by the petitioners, the facts speak very clearly. From all of my people here, nobody is rejecting change. What we are concerned about are the lack of any evidence that will prove that it won't be harmful, which no one wants to talk about that. The fact that what is a contingency plan should people be without a well, that would be very difficult, most likely, to tie to any certain company, as also noted that they moved, changed names, those kind of things. And the other question I had was the permit that we're actually now, I think, what name is it under and how are they currently operating? There might be some confusion, at least on my part for that, but I don't even need an answer. And so basically the board should have no choice but to deny this petition. There are too many unanswered questions, there are too many dangers, and whatever potentially happened in 2017, it's very clear that the motive wasn't just flushing hydrants. They misled the board at that time, as they clearly intend and are trying to do now, in my opinion. So I thank my community members for showing up with good, solid facts. And I do think it's at the discretion and obligation of the board to review each and every one of those before making a determination. Or if the facts before you sustain, I would suggest denying the petition today. And let them start over, which they should do anyway.
Amen.
That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else have anything to say?
May we respond?
We're gonna let them respond. I saw you taking notes, so I know you know some of the questions.
Before I get you guys, before I get you guys a response, Sam Hobbs, County Commissioner, sent me today, close to the meeting time, a list of questions that he also wanted me to ask, so this might be a good time for that. So, one of the questions was, would this company be willing to assist with road upkeeps, and if so, how much? Would they be willing to put forth for those road upkeep projects? A number of employees that exist for the business, and how many reside in Owen County. Is there any times that the water is returned as a donation to the county, as far as, distributing or donating, like to services who may use those a lot during emergencies? Or would they be open to that? He also would like to know the weight on the trucks when they're empty and the weight on the trucks when they're full, and what route do they take when they enter and leave the facility? Did you get all that?
Yeah, took notes. Let me try to summarize from the group of persons who reported to you and made their comments and all. one of the things I think that we can simply deal with is the changes to the current property that by the Owen County Highway was monies that would be paid for by the company as part of a permit process that is already authenticated with the county highway and will be performed by them, but paid for by the entity involved. Second thing is, the board has in front of it the actual resolution, and it has the detail in it. It says 50,000 gallons. That was the time, that was the discussion at the 2017 meeting. All due respect to those who heard it differently, that's what the board authorized. The other thing that's involved here is there's an obvious concern about whether or not the aquifer and the spring are adequate and all. Understand that the way that the state of Indiana has, we have got many aquifers positioned all over the state. I work for the Bean Blossom Paprika Water Corporation, which takes millions of gallons out of the aquifer yearly. And I know from my conversations with the DNR and from our resource people at IDM that we have one of the largest aquifers in the state in our locality out here. It's one of our major assets. Now, that is not to say that it couldn't ever go dry. That's not the point. The point is that it is adequate now for all the resources that are drawn upon it and all. And the DNR is the third party involved here who's monitoring this. And you have the reports that are voluntarily provided by the entity indicating how much water is taken out by day, and you'll see that there are daily totals where in the last month or so where it's only 6,000 to 12,000 gallons. Okay, it's not 50,000 gallons a day. It's a limit on that and all, and there's a science here. There's a science. We have all gotten so fearful of science. I don't know whether it was 3 Mile Island or where we went off the board or off the grid, but there is a science here to understand these matters. And the science says that the DNR is monitoring these kinds of things. There's a meter that tells you how many gallons you're drawing out per day. That is the number that's going on there. Unless you're willing to believe that everybody's just fraudulently filing these records every day and trust no one about anything, then you're in that ballgame. The other thing that's involved here is that there's suggestions that there's all kinds of disabilities in what have happened with these permits. You have the permits in front of you. You have the occupancy certificate. There is no homeland security required for this development. It's a silo and a storage area. That's it.
And can I add something?
Please.
Suzanne Simmerman has an email from DHS prior to us obtaining our building permit. So we did discuss that issue. We covered it, and we are absolutely in compliance.
There are so many people who are reading things on the internet and on their social media that they come to this confluence that there must be something wrong. The name change from the Inc. to the LLC is a tax consequence. I do dozens of these things over the course of years. I've been practicing law for 54 years at all. And I would challenge Pam on many of her comments about what is legal and what is not.
And I would like to add that we obtained the consent of Jenny Osborne, and it went to the BZA before we did it. I think I've submitted that to the board.
Sum total is we recognize the validity, not the validity, but the right for these people to raise these questions and make comment about the application. But I think it comes down to the practical reality. This has been a process that's been going on for 8 years. The mergers of Blue Titan and its subsidiaries, parents, and other mergers and all, it is beyond the scope of the BZA and beyond, frankly, my comprehension. These are just giant operations that are beyond the scope of things at all. And I can't take the position that there is somehow some horrible, awful thing about big corporations, that they are automatically against community interest. I don't think that's true. You heard them speak about environmental concerns, solar energy, wind energy. You heard them talk about recycling. You heard them talk about even working on biodegradable plastics and all. This is not the thing we're working with. I mean, I understand the fear, but it is untruthful in this matter and unfounded. It's time to get a hold of the reality. There's a common phrase. They say, really? Well, I say that to the board in this case. The comments are, I'm sure, heartfelt, but really?
So I'd like to address a couple things. We are not a foreign company. It's an American company. We're incorporated in Delaware, and we have 2 headquarters. Blue Triton's headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, and Primo Brands is in Tampa. So there is a merger. So it was Nestle sold their North American bottled water business in 2002. They were bought, and then under that was the Blue Triton, which is private equity. And private equity has recently, last year, merged with Primo Brands. We're still Primo Brands as umbrella, and then Blue Triton and Primo Waters, which are the 2 companies, are still operating separately. So there was discussion about the application was put in at Blue Triton because that is the operation of the bottled water business that does Greenwood, that has been there since 2008. I've worked with the company for over 15 years. There's tons of employees, and a lot of the questions, Heather, that you read have been addressed and submitted in things that we've submitted. The route that's taken, I don't recall, but we talked before about there's 100 employees in Greenwood. We had a contractor that hauls water for us. They have 120 employees. I think they said 46 of them are in Greene and Owen counties. So I don't have all of that, but there was a lot of that information that was specifically asked. It's about damage to the roads. There was submitted to you guys as well. There was reached out to Chad Walker. He went through all the records since the site's been operational, which has been operational now for well over a year. There's never been any complaints, and there's not been anything filed in regards to any damage to the roads in that area. And I should let them speak to that, but they did come out and talk to them about, there's a place where they turn wide to pull into the site. They asked the owners, HDI, to pay for that. They agreed to do that. That work just has not been completed yet.
And we agreed to pay for it on the spot.
So
out of our pocket, so we're paying for that.
There's been some discussion about, the site has been studied extensively. There's been, but we do, bottled water is our business. I think we've talked before at the last meeting about what spring water and FDA and what that means. If the spring doesn't flow, then we can't, that's our business. That's how you put spring water on a label. So before we even decided to purchase water from the site, which we've been doing again for over a year, we did extensive studies on that, and they continue to collect information and data. And they had also studied it back in 2000 before they purchased the property. So this has been studied by scientific environmental engineering groups on behalf of us to see if it was a viable source. The IGS report that's been brought up, they had a very short window. We sent them lots of stuff, and they did say, hey, based on the time and the amount of information that we have, we can't answer these questions. You need a much bigger study to do that. But they also said, and I think this is what's really important, is, I think what Ginger, she did say is, let me grab, I just saw this, I think, today, so I haven't seen it very much either, but the spring nature and purpose of this water use currently would not require this level of analysis. However, if the future was to change or a significant water withdrawal system was registered, that's the SWWF, that's what's regulated under the state of Indiana. That's what, there's been a lot of conversation. The site is more than half, or about half, what is required by the state of Indiana to register it, and so if there was this big increase, which is not what we're asking for a name change. The site has been operational with the 50,000 gallon condition. There's been no complaints of any wells being impacted. I understand the concern that the people are concerned about the future, but all we're asking for is what conditions have been approved and has been operating for the site as it has been operating. trying to think if there was anything else that was specifically that I wanted to touch on, 'cause I know I'm sure they have a few points. Oh, the DNR does have a program where they will come out if they're just asked, and they'll monitor residential wells. So that's one of the questions people have asked, which is a fair question, like, how do we know we're protected? We want a third party. There is a program that does that.
I've got a handout. This came from the head of water rights and use and the water use program coordinator. They specifically said, we can come out, anyone who calls, it's a free service, we'll get a baseline of any of the neighboring or, within a reasonable distance, well owners. We can pass it out, we can submit
What
it.
do you consider reasonable?
I think within the entire county, they would come out for anybody. It's a free service that's provided by the state. We also, so there was a reference that we have improper well records. We, again, reached out to the head, the water division, who regulates wells in the state of Indiana, and corrected anything that was incorrect. They acknowledged that in an email. I think I submitted that to the board. And I think I have that email here where they acknowledged that everything has been corrected and put into their database. We've also contacted nearby well owners. We have a kind of a map and a radius. A lot of the closest well owners who we spoke to have had abandoned wells for years. They don't use them. There is BBP water that runs up Pottersville Road and Freeman Road, and many of them have chosen years ago to discontinue well usage and instead are using city water. So we have been reaching out to the well owners in our area, and no one's had any issues.
One last comment about roads. It's abundantly clear that roads in Owen County are not in good repair. I'm happy to testify about that. But we are where we are, and truck traffic, particularly logging trucks, water trucks, the various semis that we have, all of them contribute to the problem with the roadways that we have. I think this board or the county in general would be hard pressed to stop all of the road traffic on trucks that might be exceeding the capacity of Owen County's roads. In fact, Owen County is in violation of state regulations on what its road capacity should be. So I don't know where you start and stop this argument. No. The amount of truck traffic that is involved here is minimal compared to other industries that are in Owen County. This is a continuous conditional use that is just simply a small microcosm of what's happening in Owen County. It is not the large problem that is predicted by the comments. Thank you.
Does anybody else have comments?
I have comments. Is that public comment allowed now?
Yeah, I haven't closed the public comments yet.
I have a comment.
Could you speak up so everyone can hear you, please?
My name is Christine Rose again. I just wanted to note that none of the owners are residents of Owen County, and I don't appreciate the tone of their attorney to imply that we are small-minded Owen County residents acting out of fear and afraid of change, and that we're not able to research our own information. If they have that attitude towards us already, then we're supposed to expect that they have our best interest when they're making decisions in our community. That's quite concerning. You also still need to remember that they are doing business on an agricultural zoned land, regardless of everything else. It is zoned agricultural. And your survey that you requested still does not guarantee long-term sustainable withdrawal rates, impacts nearby wells and other aquifers. Like, that's still what you requested. So regardless of all the other wells mentioned everywhere else, that particular one that you had a study on does not guarantee the questions everyone had about the future of our water. I just would like you to remember that.
Thank you.
ahead, Pam.
Pam Rogers, just a follow-up question. If the BZA could please ask the petitioner, they reported that they corrected all of their well records within the state, and that is an admission that the well records had been incorrectly recorded both previously to the BZA and the state. Are the test wells, have they been registered as being drilled, and do they have a well number assigned to them? Number two, I am thankful that they say that there is a record by Homeland Security that Ms. Zimmerman contacted them with, because our building department has no record of that to date. And if they can produce that to the BZA, I would like to see a copy of that, because respectfully to council, this building was not just a silo. There is 2 structures on this property, and one of them is a commercial, they're both considered commercial facilities per the application and per what was required to be filed. So by his testimony that Homeland Security did approve the building plans, that means that they are commercial. And regarding the connection between Primo and Blue Triton, I just want to go on record that as of November, there's litigation filed between the stockholders of Primo and Blue Triton. They have their own battles going on, and this is significant. If we're unable to get accurate records, if our well records that the state has had since 2017 are wrong, and it's not appeared on their reports, and we don't have this to where DNR would know who to go inquire with if there's a problem with a well, because these weren't recorded for the correct parcel, or the records they provided us were for the correct parcel, then those matters need to be cleared up, and it just gives more doubt to the veracity of the materials that's being presented. And if the company goes out of business, and so what, DNR says your wells are running dry, what recourse do we have? And respectfully, Sam Hobbs asked questions that do need to be answered, please, regarding the weight, the capacity of these trucks before this opportunity is lost. Only questions were circumvented. One of those is 126 employees between Green and Owen. I think very specifically they asked for how many employees were within the county for the hydrogeology or for Blue Triton, not for Aqua Logistics, which is the water trucking company. Unless this company is stating today that these are all one and the same, that they are all parent companies, that Aqua Logistics, Blue Triton, Primo, Hydrogeology, they are all part of the real estate conglomeration that's being managed by the council. Thank you.
Jacob?
I can answer the question on, we have a very small number of employees, and one lives in Lawrence County, one lives in Ellettsville, one lives in Bloomington, and these are not common law employees. These are people who work at our site. Our site is by design very, the 3 of you have been there, you've seen it, there's not permanent occupancy, no one, is there working for the day. So we have a very small number of employees. If that question is directed to us, and when the site continues under the same operation, it'll be a small number of employees.
Also, just want to say on the DNR well log, when a well is drilled, the driller is supposed to submit that to the state. On the original one, the main well, the pumping well that we used, the driller, for whatever reason, the location that he put on the second page was incorrect. We contacted DNR, and they are correcting it in their system and adding it to their online map, so you can see exactly where it is. So that has been corrected, and we contacted the driller. So the other wells on the site, he only used for monitoring the water levels. And those, so we contacted the drillers on those. They indicated that those were submitted to the state. I don't know if they handle monitoring wells different than wells that are withdrawing water or not, but we can follow up on that and determine that.
Jacob.
Just wanted to say, the gentleman mentioned that you could just tap into the BB water or whatever, and people have chosen to do so. 2 years ago, our well had a problem, and unrelated to this, it had a problem, we needed a new one. So we did look into hooking up to the town. It was $70,000 that we would have to pay for them to come. And there's only 2 houses between our house and the end point of the water. 70,000, and they were like, well, you could split it with your neighbors. No, our neighbors have no money, like, we don't have $70,000 in there, so we had to spend $20,000 and get a new well. So if something happens to our $20,000 well, then we're stuck paying $70,000. And then we get the luxury of paying a monthly payment for the well, the water that we're getting from the town. So I am concerned, who would pay for that? We put out lots of money for this. I mean, if something happens, I don't have 70,000 sitting around.
Tom Parrish. I'm just really concerned with the amount of errors that we've seen in this whole application process. Substantial amount of errors, whether they're done in error or somewhat on purpose, I don't know, and I'm not going to make that accusation. But since there's so many errors in this original conditional use application, I mean, they're stacking up. How are we to go on good faith that these errors won't compound in the future just because it's going to a bigger company that sounds like everybody's staying married? So, you know, I foresee compounding errors to keep coming along. I don't see it getting any better. That's all I've got to say.
Go ahead.
In 2021, there's a North American ship, Nestle, who was in Canada, caused major controversial issues in the area, pulled out of extracting water because of the excessiveness that was not planned or reported in the beginning. What is to say that the same thing won't happen here? Mr. Moretz has commented that, oh, well, only 6 to 9 or 6 to 12,000 gallons are being taken today. Well, look at what's happening to the roads with just that amount. And I'm sorry, but just because the owner is not using the well, it doesn't give you rights to not be concerned with the prosperity of that well. It's our property, not yours, it's not your well, it's ours. We choose to use it or we choose not to. Whether we do or not, it still should be able to be accessed and used regardless. Am I right or wrong, guys?
Right.
We paid for that. It cost me $20,000 to get a well.
We're citizens, we vote here.
So my next thing is that, what's the future production, right? What does it look like at 50,000 gallons a day? I mean, can we bring in a third party? Can DNR give us that information? What does it look like? Give me a report. Show me down the future. Show me 1 year from now what the roads are going to be like, or what the wells. This man's well's already dry.
How many more holes can you poke on
Yeah, I mean,
46 acres?
Okay, I mean, come on. And so, I mean, and Mr. Lorenz, I don't appreciate you belittling us. We're property owners. We're here to fight for our rights. I know you're representing them, but you're also a community member and a businessman here. My last thing is that just put a plan together, guys. Who really owns the entity? Who really does? Because everything is saying that Primo Brands will own it. If that's the case, we are in trouble with their shareholders. Because that's who owns the company. Not an LLC. It's owned by stakeholders. Thank you.
I'd just like to say something I've heard multiple times, and it makes perfect sense about a third party. So, I mean, as we've said, the Indiana Geologic and Water Survey has been to the site. They had the initial review, we shared all the data from the site. We're open to them being there indefinitely, access to all of our water level data. as Warren mentioned, the DNR has a program where they will come out and do baseline water levels, which is a good idea for anybody in general, even nobody close to the site. And, you know, I will say that the, you know, one thing that Ginger does point out in the report, sorry, Ginger's from the IGWS, you know, we have 4 monitoring wells around the main well there, and the one that is 200 feet south of the well, the pumping well shows little to no water level decline based on the pumping at the well 200 feet away from it. So we are monitoring with the site. We don't have the ability to go to somebody else's, you know, property and put in a monitoring well or anything like that. But I will say within the site itself, there is very little decline away from the main well.
Maureen Kipp, you're saying that the DNR is monitoring, and you know, I used to like, and I still like the DNR, but I don't like how the DNR is currently being governed with their unecological, the way the state is not being run as far as the ecology and all the rules that are taking away the rights of wetlands and coal and all the things. The DNR does not have the rights it used to have. We all know this. The state is over the DNR.
So they're not currently monitoring the DNR. Our data was shared with the Indiana Geologic and Water Survey.
Yeah.
What the DNR will do, and this is, they will come out to any landowner and they'll do for free. They'll do a baseline water level on your well, and then if you want them to, they could come out more frequently. But they will do that for you, and it's separate from those other things. This is a different program, and we have that information here. And you know, generally speaking, it's a good idea, regardless of where your well is, just so you know in the future, you know, where is it now, where it used to be.
Okay, that is good information. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just have one question, please. I requested to be able to see the records that hydrogeology or Blue Triton provided to Indiana Geological. And Heather today said that she would have to get a release from them before the public could look at any of the reports. Can you please inquire on behalf of the public as to which of those reports or records would be public? Because we were promised a site visit that Heather had set up, and that site visit was not facilitated. So if we can at least have access to the records that were allegedly given to hydrogeology and could be released, that could be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, I have a couple specific questions. Can we get an answer to her question, please?
An answer to, okay, so what we talked about when we spoke today that she wanted access to was some of that data that was sent to IGWS. And I told her that I would need to check with the companies involved to make sure that none of that was confidential as far as that data sets that were sent to help formulate the report that you have from IGWS.
Yeah, it's just technical data, it's not reports, so I think the idea was that that technical data was provided to IGWS and that they would provide an opinion. So, I mean, again, there was some time constraints, so it was just technical data, it's not reports that were submitted.
So then, yes or no?
Do you understand that, the answer?
So are you releasing the information or no?
From what I understand, the records that you're talking about are not in the possession of the county. So we have not received that data, so it's not a public record because we have not received it. I think they're saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that they provided this information to a third party that reviewed the data and published a report that was provided to. Is that IGWS? And please correct me if I'm wrong, that you reviewed. So we don't have that specific data. The county, that's what I'm speaking on behalf.
Sir, if Heather informed me today that she does have the
So
records.
I was CC'd on an email that provided the data, but
It was unintentional.
some of that may have been confidential data. So.
Okay, it sounds like they're discussing it and trying to figure out if they have access to it. But that'd be something that they can talk about later. I don't know if the BZA has jurisdiction over that, but the county commissioners probably would. And they can't force the county commissioners to release it. That would be a county commissioner's question. Similar with like stop work orders, the cease and desist. It's not necessarily the BZA's jurisdiction, that would be the county commissioners. And just so you guys know, I'm not like on either side of this, I'm just advising, so I'm not trying to skew anything.
Well, who are you? Because we don't know.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm an attorney with Frost Brown Todd, who's general counsel with the county. So I'm just like helping facilitate, totally unbiased here. I don't, oh, Bobby Muma.
What, last name?
Muma,
Muma?
yeah.
Anybody else?
Is it like Luma well drilling?
I have no, I saw that actually, and I have no relation to them, so that's coming off, there's a lot of questions being asked, and that's coming off, so I promise you can look at my family tree. So, yeah.
For our county attorney, where is your office located? Like, is it Spencer? Is it within one of the local offices here
Indianapolis.
in Indianapolis? Okay, that's fine, thank you. You do not have a Spencer office? Just when you're doing county business?
No.
Okay,
I'll-
I wanted to know, you talked about wells for monitoring and withdrawing of water. Can we know how many of each there are on site currently?
Yeah, there's one production well and there's 4 monitoring wells.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then I think it was Arlene had mentioned that wells probably have not been affected. We've had a couple people who have voiced concerns about potentially being affected over the course of the last year plus. So I do want that to be on record. There is potentially an issue with that. And then, clearly.
Can you say which,
Yeah, where's the well?
who are the ones that are
There
concerned?
were this gentleman and there was somebody else. No, there were
But
at least 2 that
But again,
expressed
though, you specifically said that occurred long before.
Well, I'm not saying that's not you.
So
That was
let's-
just
No,
you.
no, not him, there was
I don't
somebody
want
else.
Well, let's,
Tim
Yeah.
Park, Luann Fry, they both live on Pea Ridge Road,
And,
within a mile.
and when
Larry Morley too.
And Larry Moore.
specifically, when did these wells go dry?
Larry Morley's, I think, was like within the past year.
Okay. And what do you know about the other 2?
Tim's dead. They found Tim on his kitchen floor dead, but, Luann, she's the one that, at the last meeting, she texted me on my phone and was concerned about her well, cause her well
Just started.
was clouding up, starting to cloud up on her. And she was wondering, could it be from you guys?
She's on the kill
I don't know.
of the flat.
A cloudy well is more likely a function of the aquifer that it's tapping into, probably the limestone.
Yeah, that's what I told her. that
And, you know,
probably
typically, especially after.
Hang on, everyone. We're going to take a short recess.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do about 5 minutes.
Mike's off.
Thanks. I know it's right before Christmas, we're dragging you into this.
Richard, you want to look at Mike's?
We're going to go ahead and get started back. I'm going to go ahead and close the public comments.
I wasn't done.
All right, go ahead and finish, and then we're closing the
Yeah,
public
fine.
comments.
I just expect Steve to answer that. I think, in the last 90 days, one of the questions was how many days has water been extracted at or near capacity? Near capacity would be within, let's see, if we're doing 50,000, 40,000 gallons or more in the last, say, 90 days.
Not, I mean, nowhere close. Do you have the extraction?
Is it this one?
What was the question?
In the last 90 days, have you had it?
In the last 90 days?
Yeah.
30,000 was the most.
Yeah, he got it.
30,000 was the most.
I believe 30,000
Okay.
on a single day.
Was it just one time? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, I'm looking at the reports that were submitted. Hold on. So there was one day, November 11th was 30,449. In October, there was a 5 days where it was 30,000.
There's also multiple days where there was 6,000.
But sir, are these extraction rates or haul rates?
Extraction, right?
Those are, these are based off of bills of lading, so this is water hauled.
So you don't have a record for what was extracted, only what was hauled?
It's the exact same.
It's pumped on the truck.
Yeah, so it's,
So you don't have
this is the, that's the only client, that's the only customer,
You
that's the
don't
only
have a
water.
holding tank? You have no reserve or holding tank?
No, we do, there is a holding tank, yes. So,
And it goes from the holding tank into the trucks.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then I think there was, it was noted that the Owen County Highway Department, there was a phone call to them and they had agreed to potentially fix the roads and then the company paid for them. Let's be reminded that the Owen County Highway Department reports to the commissioners, so any approval of such nature would have to be presented to the commissioners and approved if that has not been done or had
So-
discussions there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we met in April with Greg Melton, who at the time was the superintendent of the highway department, and we also, and Commissioner David Risk. They asked us at that time, so we assumed.
We had an in-person meeting.
We assumed that that was something that had been approved by the county.
Yeah, no, it would still have to go before the commissioners. I
Yeah,
believe.
but
There would
again,
have to
we-
be finances, if finances are trading hands, there would have to be checks
Sure.
and balances about how that would
Yes,
happen.
but we-
And that would be through the commissioners.
Yeah, and we
If
agree
I'm
with
not
that,
mistaken.
and we had followed up with the highway department multiple times about when they were gonna do it. They said scheduling it didn't work, and then the last communication we had was with Chad Walker and, again, David Risk, and they indicated they would come out in January and have a site meeting and.
Yes, which
figure
they
out-
should
Yeah.
remind you to go to the commissioners. They would, in and of themselves, not be able to make those agreements with you. Also, I think one of the questions that went unanswered from Mr. Hobbs was the weight of the trucks. What is the weight of the trucks empty? I think there were some new ones just purchased. And then what would be the weight of a truck when it's hauling 30,000 gallons of water?
Yeah, 6,000, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
No, but if you were, I thought at capacity, I thought there were some days
Well,
that.
there would only, but that, it wouldn't be a
But
30,000.
still a question. It wouldn't be every day.
Okay,
I'm just-
I need you talking to us, not
Yeah,
to him.
I mean, I don't mean every day, but what's the weight for a truck hauling 6,000, what's the weight for a truck hauling 30,000, and what's an empty truck? I mean,
There'll never be a 30,000 gallon truck. The biggest truck is 6,000 gallons.
oh, okay, not I misspoke on that day. Then what does 6,000 gallons of water weigh?
It's gonna be 80,000 pounds. Yeah, I think something was submitted from the water hauler about what those weights are to you, I think, Arlene, is that?
Yeah, I asked them to submit that, that's their, I mean, they're the
Yeah.
haulers and they're the ones with licenses, they don't have any violations against them or anything, so, and what roads and what routes they take, so I believe that that was submitted.
Okay, yeah, and so what's the truck weigh empty?
I can't tell you offhand, I don't.
So I think this reiterates the fact that if they're trying to maintain compliance, it would be stuff I would know, because I would want to make sure I maintain compliance with the rules that are set before me. So if, and I don't know who all with this group makes decisions, but it's clear there are some very, very gray areas that should be of concern. And I think also there were a couple other questions that didn't get answered to Mr. Hobbs, which I wrote down, I'm not sure why anybody else didn't, which what route is the road, are the trucks taking?
Again, I will say that the hauler, water hauler, that falls within their expertise and their licensing, and they did submit something that answers most of those questions, I believe all of those questions.
So we're talking about routes,
Yes.
number, water return, and number of employees and upkeep. Those were the questions.
Yes. The number of Owen County employees currently is 0, in case anybody wasn't clear on that. There are employees out of Bloomfield and employees in Greenwood specifically.
Also,
And a couple others in different counties. But anyway, I think my last thing, so I can wrap this up, is that I think clearly there are dire violations of this, with this situation that I think need to be the focus. It's not people not wanting change, it's not people worried about something happening. It is going to happen because there are too many unanswered questions, too many I don't knows. And it is their responsibility to know, especially before anything changes hands. So again, respectfully request the petition be denied and that they actually, as others have suggested, start over with the petitions. It all started in 2017, we're in 2025. A lot has changed. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting, public discussion. And there's information that I need to read into the record now before the board talks. The requested conditional use is one of the conditional uses listed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located. In addition to with the other relevant standards imposed by or pursuant to this chapter, the standards, uses, and conditions set forth in Section 155.182 of this subchapter are hereby incorporated as standards, uses, and conditions of this chapter. All conditions, regulations, and development standards required in this chapter shall be satisfied. Granting the conditional use shall not conflict with the general purposes of this chapter or with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The conditional use property can be served with adequate utilities, access, streets, drainage, and other necessary facilities. The conditional use shall not involve any element or cause any condition that may be dangerous, injurious, or noxious to any other property or persons, and shall comply with performance standards delineated in this chapter. The conditional use shall be situated, oriented, and landscaped, including buffering, to produce a harmonious relationship of buildings and grounds with adjacent structures, property, and uses. The conditional use shall produce a total visual impression and environment which is consistent with the environment of the neighborhood. The conditional use shall organize vehicular access and parking to minimize traffic congestion in the neighborhood, and all permits required by other federal, state, and local agencies have been obtained. This is section 155.179. Okay, does the board have any discussion?
Since I'm the newcomer, I'll bite the bullet first and step up to the mic here. I think we've had a number of clearly outlined concerns by the community. You all have done your best to address those. I think the primary issue that's overriding this whole conversation is the speed at which you would like to conduct this transaction, which is something that's outside of the scope of, those are not our concerns, right? We have other concerns. And in order to, we've done, I think, a good amount of diligence on the part of the board to try to acquire the information that would be able to, that we'd be able to facilitate to the public to ease those concerns, right? By meeting with the third party entity that could effectively guarantee some sort of safeguards regarding this site, right? And the report that was submitted by IGWS does not in fact do that, does not in fact address the concerns that have been raised. We don't have the information that we need in order to, at this time, right? We don't have the information that we need to be able to, in good faith, say that the request that you are submitting in fact meets the 5 criteria that we have to satisfy to effectively approve this variance, the ongoing variance. And so I think that's where we're kind of at odds in terms of, trying to both satisfy the public concerns and also address the application in the timely fashion that you all have requested. The time constraint is a real problem here, right? And I think that came across the IGWS report. We'll leave it there.
I would like to have some more in-depth research done. I would like for the other board member, that is Corbin Abril, to be involved in this decision because he does sit on the Soil and Water Board. I think that we can find a happy medium, and I'm sorry we can't make the time constraint. I'm hoping that you can work that out. But if we put certain stipulations on this, I don't see why we would not be able to reasonably make everybody happy and have a third party to do the monitoring, to make sure they're doing their diligence. Talk to the highway department, get the commissioners more involved so we have some protection. And I know I'm making some enemies out there, but like Mr. Lorenz said, it's a private well. And Bean Blossom Patricksburg, they're a private entity. And they do pump. How much water do they pump out, Richard?
Over 1 million gallons a day.
It goes to the citizens of the
Right.
county.
Right.
And to Monroe County.
Yes.
That's correct. And it's in-
And Clay.
And Clay.
So I'm going to make a motion that we table this until we can have some further research. If you're willing to work with us and get Ginger involved and do a more in-depth study, are you willing to pay for that? I don't know what it would cost.
We would probably need to recess ourselves in order to answer that.
I mean,
It's a,
no issue whatsoever sharing data with them indefinitely.
and is it,
I
so
don't know what they're looking, I don't know exactly what
it's
you're looking to do.
the amount of the withdrawal is your primary concern? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, our wells.
I think if we, I'm not
Yeah,
sure
no,
who
go ahead.
you're
Yeah, this is
speaking
between
to.
shouldn't this be between us?
Well, it's a public
It's a
meeting.
public meeting, though.
That's what they think about it.
I mean, the standard,
It's hard to have a conversation when people are yelling behind you.
That.
the standards for the variance very clearly says the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and morals and general welfare of the community. The use and value of the areas adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. So, I mean, those are just the first two, right? So, I think you all agreed that it made sense to have an outside party look at the site and provide some sort of assurance that we're not experts on water, right? So we had the agreement to have IGWS look at it. They came back with a report that is less than, obviously under very severe restraints, that is less than endorsing of what you all are doing. This is not a personal thing, it's just we're asked to vote up or down on something that we're not experts on. That's what came back from the third party. And as of right now, with the information that we have in front of us, I don't want to speak for my fellow board members, but we just don't have, we all went out to your site. I can say that, you all seemed like super reasonable people. There was nothing nefarious going on there. It seemed like a very easy thing to assess in person, but right, we have a standard that we have to rise to, and as of right now, we don't have what we need. At least, I don't feel like I have enough to support your application.
Point of order for objection, please. Clarification, he referred to a variance.
No, we've already closed the public
Yeah,
comment.
No point of order for an objection regarding discussion of
No.
variance? No. Thank you.
This is,
Just
this
please
is
do
just
that
your
directly.
deliberation.
My opinion is this pretty easily could be a problem for the neighbors, which is something that we have to consider.
Right.
They're hauling twice the amount, twice the weight at least, maybe even more than that, on our roads, which is definitely not good for anybody in Owen County. What else do you need? To me, it's pretty clear this needs to be voted against. No, that's my opinion. I don't think we need a table. I don't think we need to drag it out. It needs to be done. They're still going to continue doing it. There's just not going to be Blue Triton doing it. But that's your guys' call. You got a motion?
Is that a motion?
You have a motion.
I have a motion on the floor, yeah.
Motion to table it. We have a motion to table. Do I have a second for that motion? And motion dies for lack of second.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to deny the transfer of the application.
I'll second that motion. As of right now, it's what's in front of us. No.
I just don't think we need to drag it out another month. I mean, it's not going to stop what's going on now, but it keeps it out, it keeps it from being transferred to a new owner.
Call for a vote?
Okay. All those in favor?
All right.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It's very hard.
Could you speak louder because I don't think anybody can hear you?
Well, there's nothing at the moment to hear.
Okay. Well, when there is.
I would really like to have Corbin involved with the decision.
I think it's only fair.
It's not going to meet their deadline. If
No.
we table it, it's not going to meet their deadline. But I would like to see a more in-depth study of how it's going to affect people around. And I don't think we're ready to approve.
No.
I mean, denying this application does not prohibit them from reapplying with other materials and support or giving us time to consult with IGWS. I don't know the mechanics of that as far as the county goes. We need to look into that, but, right? I mean, it's just,
Ask the attorney what he thinks.
I'm sorry.
Our discussion is that we would prefer to have more information and Corbin more involved because Corbin is on the Soil and Water District Board.
So
He couldn't be here tonight.
you'd like to table the motion?
Well, they
And
have
and they want to
voted
vote to deny it,
against it,
Correct.
yes.
but with the idea that they would reapply?
if they
That's
so
my
choose.
question. Would they need to reapply or could they?
They would need to reapply if you deny it, if you deny their conditional use.
Wait, but what if it's tabled?
We don't need to tell them what to do.
If it's tabled, then you can collect more information during that time, which will be a part of your packet at the next hearing.
And if it's denied, they can amend their
So
application.
we have, right now, the vote that you have on the table, I know we have two to deny, but then I don't have anything yet for you two, and I just want to make sure that that is where we still are on that vote for the second, because you guys haven't made a decision in any direction. You, two of you have not made a
Well,
decision
the-
yet
the
at all.
motion-
My decision.
The motion to table died for lack of a second.
Right.
That's not what's on the table.
So where does that leave us?
So, did they both fail?
No, you haven't
They-
called for
they
a
don't
vote on
voted
theirs.
yet. Well, here's the other thing, is you're using variance standards, this is a conditional use application. Those are different standards, right? Now, I read the code and it says that like light manufacturing use is conditionally permitted. One of those has to do with the BP district. I don't know if they're in the BP district. So that makes the conditional use complicated. If you deny and say reapply for a variance, then that would be staff advising them, which they're allowed to do. They're allowed to advise and say reapply for a variance. Then you can do that. You can deny and say reapply for a variance. That'd be similar to the tabling. That would be using the standards that, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. I know I introduced myself before, but that's what you were suggesting was those standards. The standards that she read are for conditional use.
Right.
So that's the difference. So that's an option. Would be to deny, have staff suggest that they seek a variance instead. Or you can table it and collect more information. I think either way you're getting more information. They seem like two paths down the same road.
Well, all those in favor of the motion to deny? Okay, that's it's two, but I can't vote that way.
2-2 with no abstentions is where we are. Okay.
Well, since you're tied, I would suggest that you table it and then you have a tiebreaker vote at the next meeting. That's my suggestion. So the deny motion isn't disappearing. You get to bring it back up at the next meeting and you'd have a third person that can vote on it. So
Sorry.
you don't have 3 members to deny. You need 3, the majority of the 5 to make affirmative action.
We don't have a quorum.
You don't, yeah. Well, you have a quorum, but you don't have.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as a vote.
Yeah.
You want to remake your motion to table?
Doesn't this fall on the burden of them to provide the right information?
That's why we want to table, that's why I made a motion to table it. We want more information. We're
We
gonna-
all showed up to, again.
But you're not the experts. We want the expert.
It's not a farm. It's
No, we're not. That's why we want a professional
It's not-
expert.
We are not.
Agricultural use.
Let them reapply.
Sorry, they're the bosses. It's not eligible. It's not
The original one would have been correct
It's
in
not
2017, but it's not.
We're gonna go by what the attorney says to us, okay?
Well,
Please.
he's
Listening
telling
to
you,
you guys.
he's telling you it's not eligible for this conditional use.
That's what he's saying.
It's very simple.
That's not what he's saying.
That's not,
It's
that's,
not.
That's not what he's saying.
Matter of order. It is though agriculture, it's a matter
Let's get
of.
order. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is still
let's get order.
deliberations. We have
Okay,
public hearing.
yeah, the public comment part has been closed. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do up here.
Quite obvious.
So you have a motion on the floor to take the table at
Yes.
this point, that's about all we can do, I suppose, because I don't want to sit here really any longer than
Mhm.
we have. I'll second it, drag this down the road another month, 2 months.
Okay. Motion, Beth, was the motion to table from you?
Yes.
Another motion to table? Okay.
and gather more information. And if you guys would be willing to, I don't know what it's gonna cost to get any more information from Ginger. We can maybe get an idea on the pricing.
Sure.
And then let you know.
It might be a moot point Yeah, I mean, we can do that just for
Is it
building
clear
truck.
what information is needed? Is it clear what information is needed?
Okay, the public portion has closed, okay? Okay, all
In an
those,
effort to build trust, I think, of course, we're open to doing that. I don't know if there would be a reason to do it from a transfer standpoint. That could be a moot point.
Okay,
And
I understand.
I can't answer that right now, but
Right.
we're gonna have to.
So we have a motion and a second.
okay, now, are we ready to do a vote?
I believe so.
All those in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
All right, what else is on the agenda? Do we have any new business?
We do not. Will we have another meeting?
We'll get to that point in just a minute.
Okay.
When is our next meeting? Because,
Well, it is a new year.
right, and we have to reorganize the board at that meeting.
And
Are we-
agree to a new calendar, I believe. I mean, this will be my first time starting a new year,
Yeah,
so.
so we'll have to set up a new calendar.
But if we go by what we are currently doing, your next meeting would be,
Second Thursday in January, correct?
would be January 8th?
January 8th?
That doesn't give you time to figure
That's exactly what I'm thinking too.
Well, but
We'll have a meeting.
we'll have our meeting because we have to restructure the board and set our calendar for the year at that meeting, even if we don't have anything else on the docket.
Did you want to speak? Do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you. Sorry if I got to talk too much.
No, you didn't.
Okay, so we're gonna meet January 8th to, and I'm doubting that any of this will be ready by then, but that's fine. So do we want to go ahead and schedule it for a February hearing?
That is, I think, up to you guys and potentially them.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we feel we look at later as we, I mean, you don't have to set a time date for this right now.
I'm gonna get in my car.
Yeah, I think that's up to you. Okay, all right, and I just had to have a motion
Are there,
to adjourn.
well,
Motion to adjourn?
are you making the motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Beth made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
You have a second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear.
4-0. We're adjourning.
Well, we cannot hear. Can we make it go on record just to preserve record because this has not been broadcasted? And the testimony of everything tonight does need to be preserved in minutes, so an appeal can be filed if that's necessary. But since it's not been broadcasted,
It's
It-
recorded.
It's recorded and it will be
Will be.
put on YouTube.
Also, you guys-